Hi everyone, welcome back to Faith Wings. I'm Melissa, and normally there's Amber, and together God is helping us soar. So today I wanted to try something a little bit different. Normally I like to post the shorts, but I found that I talk a lot. And I also just like to have more context to the stories or the verses that I've chosen for the week. And so today I just wanted to try and do something a little different where I just record a little bit longer and I spend a little bit more time with you discussing the verse and what my interpretation of the verse is. Of course, this is just my opinion and my viewpoint. So I welcome everyone to share their opinion on the verse, and if they have additional verses that we can look up or additional stories and chapters that we can look up later, I'm always welcome to those as well. I genuinely believe that knowledge is super important and a big part of our faith and understanding of Jesus. So please share your knowledge with me. I love it. And before we get too in the weeds, I just wanted to remind you to like, subscribe, and comment, especially if this is helpful for you. And please check out our normal podcast, which is on Tuesdays at 6 p.m., where we present our 10 to 15 minute long video that Amber and I choose a verse or a couple of verses and then talk about our opinions of it and how we can apply those verses to our life. And so today I chose a gospel verse, and this is a part of one of Jesus's long sermons in Matthew. And so this is Matthew chapter 7, verse 15 through 20. And it's called in my Bible, which is the New Living Translation, it's called The Tree and Its Fruit. So this is Jesus speaking now. He says, "Beware of false prophets who come disguised as harmless sheep but are really vicious wolves. You can identify them by their fruit, that is, by the way they act. Can you pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? A good tree produces good fruit, and a bad tree produces bad fruit. A good tree can't produce bad fruit, and a bad tree can't produce good fruit. So every tree that does not produce good fruit is chopped down and thrown into the fire. Yes, just as you can identify a tree by its fruit, so you can identify people by their actions." I really like this verse because not only is it solid wisdom from Jesus, which we all love to get, but it's also it gives a really good perspective and honestly an easy way. It's almost like a cheat code to see what people are like in your life, because people, especially, I don't know, I'm sure this has always been the case, but people like to talk a lot. People talk big talks, and so instead of just trusting their words, we should look at what the fruits of their actions are. So the person might overpromise something or say that they're, going to do something and then they don't do it. I know I've been guilty of this before where I've made plans and then something comes up and I can't do it. However, I usually try and make it up later, or I try to, I apologize, things like that, So the fruit, I think, is what the outcome is of the situation and also your actions with it. And that's kind of a hard thing to really wrap my head around. It's funny, every verse that I feel like Jesus says or we read in the Bible, there's multiple layers to it. And for this one, I think at first it's kind of like an easy life hack from Jesus, where it's okay, you can tell if a person's good or not by what their actions are. And at first that seems really easy, but then you think about it more and it's well, I've made some bad actions before. And I know that I'm not trying to be a bad person if I make a mistake. But usually I go and I apologize or I follow up the incorrect or mistake with something to show that I genuinely did not mean to, or it was my bad. Taking accountability, I think, is also a big fruit that people should look at when they're dealing with different types of people. Like, if someone's able to say, hey, this is my bad, like, you know, I'm totally gonna try and work on being better. You know, like, it's like seeking forgiveness. Like, if people seek forgiveness, that's part of their actions, and that's like a really big step towards seeing a better fruit from that person. But if they continue to treat you a certain way even after they apologize and stuff, it's like, okay, the fruits here are bad. And I think it also helps us to really not delay, like to stop delaying our own personal judgment of people. And I know judgment's like kind of like a bad word, like in the Bible, like don't judge people and things like that. But like, this is kind of like judging people. Like, judging people by their fruits is necessary, you know? And this is kind of like saying that, hey, you can discern very quickly. Maybe discern is a better word. But you can discern quickly what someone's intentions are and who they are if you look at the fruits of their actions, or if you look at their actions directly. It's just like a litmus test, you know, when you're checking the pH. I'm a chemist, so I think about it in terms of chemistry sometimes. It's like if you want to know if a solution is acidic or basic, you use a litmus test or a little piece of litmus paper and put it into the solution, and then when you pull it out, it'll dry a certain color, and then you can hold it up to whatever the color is on your pH, like the little pH scale that you have. And then it'll say, oh, this is basic, this is water, or this is acidic. I feel like that's kind of what he's saying here, except he's putting it in a more understandable light. Everyone knows what good fruit is. Everyone knows what bad fruit is. And it can be really like gross if you accidentally have some bad fruit. So like being able to tell right away, okay, this person is good, or like theoretically good, or this person's bad. It just helps us with our life, you know? And also, like, I think also there's like a spiritual component to this too, of course, because it's Jesus. And that is that you want to be around people who produce good fruit, because that means that they're going to bring good fruit to your life. You don't want to be around people who produce bad fruit, because who wants bad fruit? So just some things to think about. I really enjoyed this section. Again, it's Matthew chapter 7, 15 through 20. Just a little piece of advice from Jesus. Not little, I guess it's kind of big, because Jesus really does give us a lot of wisdom in different ways. Okay, well, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye.